Well, hey, and welcome to another episode of Beetle Dustino, coming at you today with a vinyl community contest entry. It's going to be for Alex over at Beer and Vinyl. He's got a great channel. Go check him out. He's shooting for 500 subscribers. He's probably there by now. I know when he started the contest, he was only a dozen so away. So I'm sure he's there, but go subscribe to him. Let's get him to 1,000. You know, that's the big goal on this always, right? So let's get him to 1,000. If he's already almost at 500, let's get him there. He's a great guy. Kind of shares a Midwesterner too, and from Columbus, Ohio, and he shares an affinity for beards and beer, I guess, and vinyl. So let's, in honor of him, let's pour a nice cold one here. Beautiful day out today. I am pouring a from Oxford Brewing Company here in Grand Forks, North Dakota, my hometown, one of our hometown breweries. There's the bottle there. It's their golden ale, so nice for a warm, sunny day. Nice sunny day. And I got in my Bemidji Brewing Company glass here. Fairly local to me, a few hours away, but I consider them local. I know the guys and been in their brewery several times. Cheers, Alex, and cheers to the vinyl community too. And yeah, let's get in with the contest here. And speaking of breweries too, speaking of local breweries, I believe the Brew Dog's got one near to you, Alex, there. And I don't know if it's still open or not. It's been a while since I've heard, but it's always been one I've wanted to get to. I've been to a little over 200 breweries. I think I'm at like 200 or 201. I can't remember the last time I checked my little list, but I love traveling around, going to local breweries. I love supporting local businesses like that. So I think that's really cool. And I've always been into craft beer. I've been kind of out of the game since 2020. Unfortunately, I hear a lot of breweries are closing too. So that's got me sad. In our own town, we had 3, and one of the 3 has closed. I don't even know if Ox Brewing is still open. I drove by them today. They look like everything was good, but they're kind of an odd little brewery. But as I said, let's get into it. And I didn't get into it. I got back to the brewery stuff. Let's get into it now. So what Alex wants is for us to do tell a story on 5 different records about a person that we love and their connection with us to that record. And I mean, I saw Sam St. John's video first, then I went and watched Alex's video to see the full contest entry and everything, and immediately had 5 in mind. So let's get to that, and then I'll tell you what's up for grabs at the end here that Alex is giving away. It's a great prize, so good luck to everybody that's entering in the vinyl community, and please do a video for him, and please subscribe to his channel. But anyways, I'm going to get into it here, and we'll start out, me being Beetle Dustino. I got to talk about the Beatles, and I've got to talk about this one. Immediately, this one hit me. I've already done a vinyl community contest entry. It was my very first video, as a matter of fact, talking about my most prized Beatles possession that I did for Beatley Tone's Beatles channel. And I talked about me going in my ticket stub from when I actually went to go see this in Las Vegas with a good buddy of mine, my buddy Mike. I've got several buddy Mikes. We're going to hear about another buddy Mike coming up here. So this would be Mike 3 I saw this with. And, just such a fun soundtrack. I absolutely love that I got this vinyl copy now. But we got tickets to the show. I'll do kind of an abridged version of it, and I'll link my original video in the video here too. But yeah, we got tickets to it. I knew he was always kind of into classic music, classic rock type music, oldies. Him and I kind of shared a love with that together. We had a great radio station in our town here that played a lot of oldies, so we had kind of that connection, not necessarily right straight through the Beatles, but just that kind of love. And he was a big top 40 guy. It was actually his main love of music. So I had to listen to a lot of top 40, hanging around, driving around with him and stuff. But we did, share a little love for some classic rock here and there, especially the Beatles. And when we knew we were going to Vegas together, it was a no-brainer. You had to go see a Cirque du Soleil show or something, and it was a no-brainer for us. If there was a Beatles-themed Cirque du Soleil show, that was definitely what we were going to go to. And yeah, we bought tickets online, sight unseen. At the time, it was just kind of, you just purchased, either the highest level ticket or the mid-level or the low level, whatever. we decided to spring for the high level. We ended up with fantastic seats, and I'm going to kind of leave it at that with the seats and that with the show, because this isn't about the show, it's about the album. Anyways, we after the show was over, we did stop by the gift shop, and he picked up a copy of the album, not the vinyl. He got a CD copy. We, believe it or not, rented a car in Vegas, and he was the main driver on that, and he popped that in the CD player. We sat and listened to that several times driving around Vegas. So not only did we see the show, but we were listening to it. The whole trip on Vegas was listening to the Love soundtrack. He absolutely loved it. I think his favorite off of this was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and the little add-ons they did in there. He even almost forgot the CD in the player. And yes, cars had CD players back in those days. But he almost left the CD in the player as we were leaving to check in the car. I remembered to grab it out quick and like, Mike, don't forget your disc here. So I made sure to save his disc. But yeah, that's my story on that. And please go watch my original video. It's a long one. You can see how far I've come. As I said, in there. I said several times in that video. But anyways, we'll get on to my other Mike friend. But in an indirect way, it started out with an Anthony friend. And Anthony, if you're seeing this, Tony, we called you both ways there. But yeah, he turned me on to this in high school. And this is here, the American Tribal Love Rock musical. And I was obsessed with this after my buddy Tony, turned me on to this in high school. He would go on and on about his parents having a vinyl copy, specifically of the Broadway show, and how fantastic it sounded on vinyl. So that's pretty cool back in the late 90s that somebody was really promoting vinyl. I never listened to this with Tony. He sang it a lot. He he would sing songs from it as we're hanging out in the commons at school. He was kind of in my free hour, so we'd always hang out in the commons, and he was one of the crew that hung out with me, the theater crew, so that makes sense with the musical, right, I guess. But he always loved it, and I had another buddy, Michael buddy, also, that him and I would go around to stuff and that, and we'd listen to it in my car quite a bit, because I went and got the CD soundtrack eventually, and I also got the soundtrack from the movie, the film, for it too. So I had kind of two different versions of it in that. And I know him and I would drive around quite a bit, listening to it. So it went from Anthony to Michael, and Michael and I feel like there's a stronger connection. I do see this and I immediately think of Anthony, but I also think about Michael. And he not only, listened to it a lot with me, he was there the day I got this record, but in between that, he had went to college, went as a music major, and ended up in New York City, lived there for several years, and was a singer and a performer, so forth and so on. His day job, he worked with a lot of banks and stuff, so I guess the story goes, and I checked with him right before I made this video, and thank you for sharing this with me, Mike. I know he had told me about it before, but I just want to make sure I got all the facts right. But he was dressed for his banking job, had left from that to go do an audition for a completely different show. And I suppose he said he was just in his suit and that he'd wear for the banking job. And he went in to go audition for this other show, not knowing there was an audition going on by, got to make sure I get his name right here. Galt McDermott. In the same kind of audition room there or whatever, Galt McDermott was doing audition for a European leg of hair, and he wasn't getting into the other audition that he was going to. There were a lot of people waiting, and it was taking hours and hours, and Galt McDermott had openings and said, if anybody wants to come, audition for us, come on in. So he actually went on audition for Galt McDermott. So how cool is that? I sat and listened to this with him during high school and post high school quite a bit. And now he is off in New York auditioning for the man himself. So, I mean, how cool is that? Another story he shared with me too is there was a Broadway revival at the time, and they did a bit of it in Central Park. They had several shows in Central Park. It was the Broadway production, but they did it in Central Park. And he said tickets were impossible to get. And somehow him and a friend lucked into getting tickets for it. And I know in the film, I don't know how the Broadway show goes, but in the film, there is a scene in Central Park on a stage, everything like that. So pretty cool with that. So you got that connection. And he said that him and his buddy, well, the whole audience, at the end for Let the Sunshine In, they got to go up on stage and sing. They invited the whole audience up, and he said that they all just ran up there and sang with the cast. And he said it was quite a moment in Central Park, and I'd imagine it would be. That has got to be just a very cool moment. But yeah, I think that's so cool that I shared that time with him, listening to this all the time in my car, between this one and the film one. And I know several times we drive to Fargo together. I know we were listening to it. I remember I listened to that, I swear, for a straight year, this album, in either one of those two versions of the album. And I know I shared that moment a lot with him, and that's really cool. And the cool thing about that too is he is such a musical guy. And he told me today when I talked to him too, it was me that introduced him to this. So Anthony introduced me to it, and I introduced him to it, and he was more a musical guy. So for me to introduce him to a musical, I think that's pretty cool too. And I didn't realize I had done that. I thought that he knew of it elsewhere too, but I guess I was his intro to it. And him, listening to it with me in the car was, his intro to it too. But anyways, that will be my Mike buddies, I guess, and an Anthony in there too. And so I got a kind of a 2-for-1 on the one. We're going to do a 2-for-1 on the other one here too. So my next one up, I got Hanson, Red, Green, Blue. Any Hanson album would work for this. This is representing my sisters, and they absolutely love Hanson. I love the Beatles. They love Hanson. My love for the Beatles is huge. I think their love for Hanson is even bigger. My one sister, I think, has seen them over 30 times in concert. When they were in high school yet, even before they drove, they somehow convinced my mom to drive them to Colorado on one of Hanson's first tours. It probably was their first tour, and see them at Red Rocks, the Red Rocks Amphitheater. So they got to see, that was the first time they ever saw them. And then no more than they got home, they booked tickets for, to see them in Milwaukee right after that. And it's kind of cool. Their first album there is The Man from Milwaukee. So they got to see them in Milwaukee on that, the song on that. I grabbed this one not only because it was just easy to grab, because I got it kind of with my box sets and stuff, so they're a little easier to grab than an individual record. But I grabbed this one because I've seen them 3 times myself, with sharing the love of them with my sisters, and I really like Hanson too. They're a very underrated band. I get that they were kind of this pop catchy thing at first, but they are a really good, hardworking band. They got some great music out there. Especially their newer stuff. One of my favorite albums of theirs is Shout It Out. I absolutely love that album. I love their Christmas albums they've done, especially their first one, which was one of their earlier albums. But I did see this tour with them though, and that's why I also wanted to grab this one, because last time they saw me even, was the Red, Green, Blue tour. And I got to see them first time they ever came to our state here in North Dakota, Fargo Brewing Company. Speaking of beer there, Fargo Brewing Company in Fargo, North Dakota has got a great stage, 2 great stages, an outdoor one and a indoor one. So cheers to Fargo Brewing Company for bringing some great music, also with some great beers. And yeah, we got to see them there, and that was just really fun. All 3 times I've seen them in concert with my sisters, there's been quite stories with it, so that's really cool on that. But yeah, my sisters absolutely love them. My one sister that's seen them all the time, she's even got their logo. Where is it? I don't see it here. Oh, well, the H logo is tattooed on her, so that's how much of a fan she is. So this next one, since we did my sisters, now we'll go to my parents. And oh yes, my sisters are twins, so that's why they also get doubled up on that. Besides the fact that they're both Hanson lovers, they are twins, so there we go. And next up, we're going to go Led Zeppelin. And this one is my father, would represent my dad. Every time I see this album, that's all I think about. I have begged him and begged him to come on to this channel with me and share his story, because he has got an amazing Led Zeppelin story. And I forgot to get something out here. Hold on just a moment, because I want to get the dates and everything right. His story on it is, at the time, he didn't know who Led Zeppelin was, I guess. So late 60s, it would have been. He was fresh out of high school, pretty fresh out of high school, probably was in community college, probably hanging out with guys that he knew from community college. He lived in kind of northern Wisconsin, and was going to community college in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And Eau Claire, I know, even back then had a pretty decent music scene, I think, for a small little community like that. And his buddies that he had, he told me, I really wish he'd come on and tell this story. I always said, I want to tell this story on my channel, but I always wanted him to tell it, but he absolutely refuses to come on. And he's got another great rock and roll story, too, that meeting, chance encounter type thing. But anyways, we're talking about Led Zeppelin, and we'll talk about that another day maybe. And yeah, he was just hanging out one summer day, and his buddies called him up and said, hey, we got tickets to this concert in Minneapolis. Do you want to go? And he said, yeah, why not? I'm not doing anything. So he says they got into the car. It's about a 2-hour drive from where he is to Minneapolis. They drove to Minneapolis, and he said they're drinking the whole way. This is Wisconsin back in those days, and probably Minnesota too back in those days. They're drinking the whole way. So the buddies of his were in a band, so they had some connections, I guess, somehow to get decent tickets and backstage passes. And so he went to go see Led Zeppelin, not knowing who they are. He said it was the craziest bass he had ever heard, the bass in the theater, with them playing and that. And he said he never heard bass like that. Still to this day, he probably has never heard bass like that. And it just blew him away on that. And he said that they did get backstage, hung out with Zeppelin, and he said he was so blitzed he doesn't totally remember, but he either was talking to Robert Plant or Jimmy Page, and had like a 20-30 minute long conversation with him, just hanging out. He said it was the best conversation he ever had, but he has no memory of it aside from the fact he talked to him. He doesn't even remember which one of the two he talked to, but he knew it was either Plant or Page. So I'd say that's pretty cool. I would want to get on and tell that story. So of course, every time, this is actually his copy. I'm assuming it's his. It could be my mom's, but it's theirs, I guess we'll say. And of this, and every time I look at this record, any Zeppelin record, I think of my dad and his story on that. So, and the other band is ABBA, that I said he had a chance encounter with. I'll tell that story another day, seeing as he won't come on and do it. Actually encourage him to come on and do that. I'm going to tell you in the comments, tell my dad to come on and tell the story. Let him know your love for him, that you want to hear that story from his lips. But and he can retell the Zeppelin one too, what he remembers of it. But I kind of was laughing about that before I filmed this. I was thinking, well, A, ABBA, Z, Zeppelin, even though it's Led Zeppelin, but A to Z, ABBA to Zeppelin. With the stories there. Oh, and yeah, what I figured out, I forgot I was grabbing some dates here. So it would have been, what I figured out on it was the Led Zeppelin North American Spring Tour 1969. And I love the fact that Wikipedia's got all this. I went looking, because I knew that usually they got listed for, big bands, the concerts and that. And it looks like it would have been, and he probably doesn't remember this either, but it would have been, I do find that they played Minneapolis at the Guthrie Theater, which is still there. As a matter of fact, the hotel I'd always stay at in downtown Minneapolis was just right around the corner from the Guthrie there. So I know right where the theater's at. I'm very familiar with that neighborhood there of Minneapolis. And it was May 18th of 1969. So there it is. So the spring 1969 tour, which would have been their second North American tour. So pretty cool on that. And let's see. So we're on to the fifth one here. And thank God Alex did say, just make the stories as long as you want, because I feel like these are going a little long. Now this next one isn't necessarily an album. I do got an album with it on it. It's more the song, and it's my mom's connection. And I was trying to think, is there a full album that I got like a great connection with her on? And no, but I do got a song that I've had a great connection with her on. And she would sing this to me when I was a little baby. And as I was growing up, as far back as I can remember, if this song came on the radio, her and I were together, we'd be singing it at the top of our lungs together. And still to this day, if we're ever together and the song comes on, and we even sing it without the song coming on. We'll just start singing the song. So, joy to the world, all the boys and girls, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, joy to you and me. But yeah, it's a Three Dog Night, and Joy to the World would be the track. Let's see, where is it at on here? Oh, there we go. Track number 9 on there. So this is the complete hits singles. And I had just got this recently just because of that song. And I do love several other Three Dog Night songs. So, you know, I can't fault this album at all for that. Usually I try to stay away from compilations, but sometimes some bands, a compilation seems like the right thing to do. And this one, when I was like, yeah, I need a copy of Joy to the World. I've never got one. So let's get that. So that would be that album, but more that particular song. But yeah, ever since I can remember, that has been just mine and her song. You know, Jeremiah was a bullfrog. That's more what we call it than Joy to the World. So Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Well, cheers, Alex. Cheers, vinyl community. Please get out and make a video for him. And please go, if you don't make a video even, at least go subscribe to his channel. But yeah, enter into the contest. It's a great contest. He's got a great prize going. So he's giving away a 45 RPM version of Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. And there was another one, I can't remember the title. Please go watch his video. I'll link it in the description below here. But please go watch his video too. And he is also, it's a jazz record. I can't remember the name of the guy. I know he said he worked with Miles Davis, so, and looks like a cool record. I need to get some jazz in my life, and if I win the contest, I think this would be a great entryway to it. But I absolutely love Rumors, so I'd love to have that album too. So, but yeah, that's what he's giving away. And if you don't want those or other things up, you know, he'll figure out getting a $50 gift card to you too. So there are kind of two options there, either those 2 albums or a $50 gift card. So really great prize there if you do win the contest. So please go enter, or at least go please subscribe to his channel. And I'm going to get wrapping up here because I feel like it's already went pretty long, and I do want to get this edited out as quick as I can and out for my entry here. So I am going to get wrapping up totally. And before I do, I am going to once again thank all my subscribers, and thanks to any new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and do hit the notification bell if you have. If you haven't yet, or if you do subscribe. Wow, where am I at? I guess I've had too many sips of this, maybe. We'll do another one. Cheers. That's pretty good. I haven't had that for a while. But anyways, also please give the video a like. It does really help out the channel. And do leave a comment. I love having a discussion with everybody. Let me know in the comment below if you're going to do the video with Alex there. I'd love to hear that. Also, please let me know, and my dad know, if you'd like to hear him come share his ABBA and Led Zeppelin stories live on air. Well, maybe not live, but live on film, or live on memory card on the phone. Something like that. But anyways, before I get too silly, I am going to get wrapping up. I am Beetle Dustino, signing out. Cheers.